In this lesson, we're going to learn about solving absolute value equations. All right, example number 1, solve an absolute value equation. So for question number 1, we have x is equal to 3. What that means is that we need to find what the value of x can be to make this statement true. So the absolute value of what is equal to 3? Well, what we know is that the absolute value of 3 is equal to 3. And we know that the absolute value of negative 3 is also equal to 3. So for these absolute value equations, we're going to end up with two solutions. One that is going to make the statement in the absolute values symbol be a positive, and one that is going to make the absolute value statement to be a negative. So in this case, we're going to say that x is equal to 3 and x is equal to negative 3. So there are two answers here. All right, so we have x plus 2, or the absolute value of x plus 2 is equal to 9. Now let's think about what the solutions are, and then I'm going to show you how we organized our absolute value equations. First of all, well, what plus 2 is equal to 9? And we know that 7 plus 2 is equal to 9, and the absolute value of 9 is equal to 9. We also know that a negative 11 plus 2 is equal to a negative 9, and the absolute value of negative 9 is equal to 9. So we know that we have those solutions, 7 and negative 11. Let's go ahead and take a look at how we're going to then organize these as we solve them. So I'm going to take and I'm going to remove my absolute value symbols, and it's almost like I'm just bringing them down, sliding them down, and I'm going to make two separate equations. One of the equations is going to be x plus 2 is equal to that positive 9. And we have an x plus 2 is equal to negative 9, because we also know that the absolute value of negative 9 is going to be equal to that positive 9. So that's why one is equal to a positive and one's going to be equal to a negative. And once we have the two separate equations, we're just going to solve them. I'm going to have x is equal to then 7. And remember, we had said that earlier, that 7 plus 2 is equal to 9, and that the absolute value of 9 is equal to 9. And then we have this one right here, 2, then, where I'm going to minus the 2. And I have x is equal to negative 11, because we said that negative 11 plus 2 is equal to negative 9, and that the absolute value of negative 9 is also equal to 9. So we have these two solutions, x is equal to 7 and x is going to be equal to negative 11. All right, so let's go ahead and let's solve this one by sliding down those absolute value symbols. And I'm going to have my 6 minus x is equal to 4. And remember, one of them is going to be a positive answer and one is going to be a negative 4. So I'm going to have 6 minus xn is equal to then negative 4. Because remember, the absolute value of 4 is equal to 4, and the absolute value of negative 4 is also equal to 4 that we have right here. So let's go ahead and we're going to solve. I'm going to minus my 6. Negative x is equal to then negative 2. I'm just going to divide by that negative 1. And x is going to be equal to positive 2. And then here, we're going to minus the 6. We have negative x is equal to negative 10, and divide again by the negative 1, and x is going to be equal to 10. So let's go ahead and plug them in and just show how they work. So when I plug in a 2 right here, I have the absolute value of 6 minus 2 is equal to 4. 6 minus 2 is 4. Is the absolute value of 4 equal to 4? And we know it is. Now let's plug in our 10 that we have right here. Is the absolute value of 6 minus 10 equal to 4? So I simplify and I get negative 4. Well, is the absolute value of negative 4? Well, that's also equal to 4, and so we know that it works in both situations. All right, let's do a few more. We have the absolute value of 6x. Well, again, we're going to take off the absolute value symbols. We're just going to slide them down and make two separate equations. And again, we're going to now isolate the variable by dividing. X is equal to 2, and then divide by 6, and x is equal to negative 2. And again, if you went up top there and plugged them in, 2 times 6 is 12, and the absolute value of 12 is 12. And then negative 2 times 6 is equal to negative 12, and the absolute value of negative 12 is equal to 12. All right, so I have the absolute value of 2x minus 5 is equal to 1. So again, we're going to split this into two separate equations. 2x minus 5 is equal to 1, and 2x minus 5 is equal to negative 1. So we're going to solve both of them. I have 2x is equal to 6, and then we'll divide that by 2, and x is equal to 3. And then we'll solve the other one, plus 5. And then 2x is equal to 4, and you'll divide this one by the 2, and x is equal to 2. And so if you came up top here and plugged them in, so 2 times 3 is 6, 6 minus 5 is equal to 1, and the absolute value of 1 is 1. And then if I plugged in the 2 right here, 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 minus 5 is negative 1, and the absolute value of negative 1 is equal to positive 1. All right, one last example here. Again, we're going to divide this into two separate equations. 2x plus 7 is equal to 11, and 2x plus 7 is equal to negative 11. And again, we're just going to isolate that variable. Divide by 2, and then x is equal to 2 in this case, and then again, minus 7, 2x is equal to negative 18, and x is going to be equal to negative 9. And so my two solutions is 2 and negative 9. So in this lesson, we took a look at how to solve absolute value equations.